Oh, yay, okay. Had to fix. Oh. Oh, I should probably tweet. Where am I? Oh. Okay. Live. No, not love now. Live now. Okay. Oh, where's my chat box? Um. Come on, where's my chat box? Oh, I see it on the thing. Oh, hi, Chicken Okabe. Welcome. We are so back. Yeah. Thank you for your patience. I don't want to talk about too much in this stream, but I will talk about it more in another stream. But I do want to talk about the little adventure I had. Hi, Kenley. Welcome. And thank you. Thank you for cheering. I appreciate that. Um, yeah, so as you know, I've been gone for about a month, but I'm trying to be regular now. Oh, a hype train. Sounds good. Yeah, I really do. I really do. I hope TwitchCon will inspire me a little bit. Um, but yeah, I really wanted to do this stream specifically before TwitchCon because I felt like it was relevant. Um, to this weekend, TwitchCon, we're on Twitch. And I will say I cannot promise that it will be amazing. I have I do have a presentation. I had spent a lot of time today on it. um, some of it will be like basics. I know many of you have already gone to cons, which is probably how you met me. But you know what if I'm just trying to figure out, I can't read chat. I'll just use my phone. Oh man, I wish I could go. Sounds like a good time. Yeah. I have even if even if I didn't buy a ticket, I'd probably still just I'd probably just check out the gatherings outside and stuff. Okay, now I can look at my chat on my phone. I don't know why I have been unable to get chat in my OBS. Maybe I need to update it, but yeah. Okay. Back to the topic at hand, conventions. I know many of you might know a lot of this stuff already, but I also I have this covers a lot. This will cover making friends, saving money, and even though there will be a PowerPoint, I will talk even more in depth about everything, so there'll be a lot of content that won't be on the PowerPoint. But yeah, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming back. I will talk, like I said, I'll talk more about all the other stuff I've been up to at another time. I'm a con pro. I don't know about pro. But I will talk about my qualifications a little bit, just for those who maybe don't know me or are wondering why I feel like I'm able to make a PowerPoint presentation on this. I'll get into that. But first, let's go to the slideshow. Yeah, okay, here we go. So this is the first page. I took the logo from my promo image and blew it up. And this is Tangy's Declassified Con Survival Guide. Yeah, there's two of us now. Also, please feel free to ask any questions. I'll answer questions as I go. So, yeah, please feel free. I'm looking at chat. And I can also answer questions at the end too. But this is supposed to be at least somewhat interactive, so I'm still going to be, interacting with chat, because is it really a live stream if you're not doing any sort of interaction? Probably, I mean, yes, but that's the fun part. So, without further ado, so first, just about me. I've been going to cons for over 10 years. I'm also staff for 2 very different conventions. Most people already know what one of those is. I've been to over 50 cons throughout the last 10 years. The only time I haven't been going to cons was during COVID, but I started going back to cons pretty much as soon as they started coming back. Yeah, 10 plus. And I've been to more than just anime cons. I used to actually go mostly to comic conventions and then sometimes anime cons. So I know a little bit about like the difference between the different cons. And also I cosplay. Just for fun. And I've also mostly been cosplaying as long as I've been going to conventions. But yeah, I'm passionate about conventions. And I want to, for those of you who maybe are too shy or too scared about getting into the whole thing, I hope this will be a good entry point for those of you who have been going just as long as me. Maybe you'll learn something, hopefully. And yeah, that's just me. Okay, first, what are fan conventions? If you literally just stumbled into the stream and you're like, what is this girl talking about? Let me just explain real quick. Fan conventions are a place where people gather, and usually over a common interest. You know, that could be anime, comics, sometimes very niche things. Even though there's a lot of different kinds, they almost always have the vendors and the artist alley, cosplayers, and programming. What the programming is varies very much, but yeah. There's a variety, but that's the basics. So what kind of cons? There are, I mean, and this is also, let me just preface this. I'm mostly speaking from a North American perspective. Conventions in other places, I mean, Europe's not like super different, but in like Japan, for instance, the convention culture is so different. Like American cons and like, for instance, Japanese cons are very different. Like seriously, so different. So I'm mostly just talking about this from my experience with North American cons. So there's anime cons, such as AX, Anime NYC, Fanime, just to name a few. There's like literally so many anime cons, it's insane. There's comic conventions, you know, the most famous one is San Diego Comic-Con. New York Comic-Con is the second biggest one, but there's literally smaller comic cons, believe it or not. They're out there. And then also we have gaming cons, which also vary greatly in size. You know, most famously we have stuff such as PAX, or like, is it PAX? It said PAX, right? Pacific. Wait, what does PAX even stand for? I've never like seen it spelled spelled out. Oh my god. And then MagFest. But there's also like tons of others. A lot of gaming cons I've noticed tend to have like a big one and then branch out into different locations. There's like PAXs all over the country. There's like different MagFest, MagWest, etc. And then also on top of these main things, I guess you could also kind of say gaming is sort of a subculture con, but I'm gonna kind of just say it's different. DreamHack, I went to DreamHack. That gaming cons are just very different than anime comic cons, in my opinion. They're to me they're almost like on the brink of what a fan convention is, but because there's still a lot of overlap, I'm gonna talk about them too. They smell. Oh my god. Ah! Oh no. But yeah, so then we have the subculture con. Oh, hi Munch. Sorry to hear you're sick. I hope you get better. Welcome back to the stream. Okay, talking about subculture cons. Well, one of the ones I'm known for being staff of is Offkai, which is a subculture con. It's very much anime because VTubers are basically in the anime realm, but it's still technically a subculture con. Also, furry conventions are such a big thing. I almost feel like they could be like a fifth, but I'm gonna put them under subculture cons because I actually have never been to a furry convention, so I couldn't really expand on that very much. There's also like, but besides that, oh yay, sub goal! Thank you for 120. Oh, wait, did it just go back down? Did someone just follow and unfollow? Okay. I need to figure out how to get my alerts here, because I'm trying to figure out how to get, I'm sorry, I get a follower and then I can't thank that person because I still have not figured out how to get it on the screen. I'm working on that. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for following. Would I go to a NeopetCon? Yeah, of course. I would definitely go to a NeopetCon. Which leads me further into my point that subculture cons could literally be like anything. There's been a Toho one, and there's ones about idols. There's just a million. I mean, if there can be one about VTubers, then I mean, you know. What kind of separates subculture fan cons from, like, I don't know, something like, for instance, like a cat convention, or like, I mean, I guess horror conventions could kind of also be technically here, but it gets kind of in this murky gray area, like an activity doc and OBS. I don't know why. I need to update OBS or something. My activity doc is like not popping up, so I need to work on that. I was too busy working on this PowerPoint today to work on my tech issues. So, sorry. We need a convention about conventions. Yeah, maybe that exists somewhere. And just so you know, even though technically conventions can mean, you know, like expos and other stuff, I'm just talking about fan conventions. What can you do at conventions? So, if you've never been to a convention, or maybe you've been to a convention, but all you've really done is go to the exhibit hall and go home, I will now tell you about some other cool things you can actually do at a convention besides just buy things. So you might also, besides buying things, know about programming. Every con has programming, pretty much. In North America. There's like cosplay cons or like markets more so, but I mean, yeah. Is the Democratic National Convention a fan convention? No. I did that once, but it was for a signature for my favorite voice actor. Yeah, yeah, that's another thing. So I will talk about that in the next slide, but there's the main reasons usually people go to cons is to buy things, to cosplay, to meet voice actors, but mostly, and I will say this is not like a hard and fast rule, but if you go to cons that are more run by nonprofits, there will be more stuff to do. This is kind of a little bit nitty-gritty, but there's primarily the conventions that are nonprofit and the conventions that are for-profit or run by companies. For example, Anime New York City, DreamHack, TwitchCon, run by a company. No one there is a volunteer because it's entirely paid staff. And that's usually why those conventions are pretty pricey compared to nonprofits, which usually rely pretty much on staff and volunteers. But generally, I've found, just from personal experience, that nonprofit conventions tend to have more activities that you can do besides just shopping or cosplay. So what can you do? As I said, cosplay. In my opinion, the best cons to cosplay at are anime conventions. To me, like, that's where you're mostly gonna find the paid staff. I know. You're mostly gonna find, like, I would say some anime cons you go to, like Fanime, over half the people are in cosplay. I feel like more people are in cosplay at some anime cons than out of cosplay. On the flip side, you'll see a lot of cosplay still at comic conventions, but I've noticed, especially with larger ones, you're not going to see as much cosplay. Gaming conventions, in my experience, there's cosplay, but like hardly anyone cosplays. It's really funny, actually. My experience from DreamHack, which is one of the only gaming cons I've been to, is that if you're cosplaying at a gaming con and there's like these big companies, they kept like asking us to like basically model their product, which was kind of hilarious. But I feel like when you cosplay at a gaming convention, you almost feel like you're treated more like a celebrity. It's kind of funny. KatsuCon is basically cosplay con. Yeah, I've definitely heard that about KatsuCon. Some anime cons are pretty much known as like conventions you cosplay at, you know. Obviously, besides cosplay, we have the exhibit hall. And this can vary wildly, but there will always be something for sale at a con. I've yet to see one that wasn't selling things. Even the smallest conventions, there will be an exhibit hall. Sometimes if it's like a big convention, the exhibit halls will even give out free stuff. So like Comic-Con. Also recently when I went to Anime New York City, they were giving out stuff like AX. You can get some cool stuff for free. But also they'll be trying to sell you stuff too. But sometimes it'll be beyond even just being sold stuff. Sometimes it'll be like, watch our thing, try our product, take a picture, stuff like that. So exhibit halls can vary a lot in what they are. Artist Alley. Usually it's in the same room as exhibit hall, but sometimes for smaller cons, especially ones in hotels, they'll kind of put it in another location. Artist Alleys has exclusively artists, usually selling things like keychains, buttons, prints, but it can vary wildly. And it's mostly going to be fan art. So Artist Alley is not super different from exhibit hall, except it's smaller little booths of artists. Besides that, programming. Every con will have something happening, whether they have one stage or they have like a million rooms. There's always going to be something you can sit down and watch when you're tired of walking around the exhibit hall. Whether or not you care for that is up to you. There have been conventions in which I have not sat down for a single panel, because what you do at cons can really just vary from either you're there to see. Sometimes you go and you see programs, sometimes you're going just to cosplay, sometimes you're going to just hang out with friends. It really just be like that. Something else that's gotten even bigger these days are concerts. Larger anime and comic conventions can have concerts where they even bring in people sometimes from Japan. Like Fanime has brought in people from Japan at Comic-Con this year, which is technically not in Comic-Con but just outside of it. Crunchyroll was doing Lisa concert. Subculture conventions, like for example at Offkai, we have a lot of concerts because concerts are really integral to VTuber culture. Or you know, like Idol Fest, obviously there's going to be concerts, but even sometimes small conventions can even have like little concerts, but that's not really going to be like a big production. That's going to be kind of folded into programming. Concerts are your favorite part? Yeah, I also love concerts. Now I just do Wotagate. Yeah, everyone, once you start going to cons for enough, you kind of find your people, find your niche, and then a lot of people in their later years of con going tend to just go for like one thing. That's completely okay. You can go for so many different reasons. Continue. There's meet and greets. A lot of people start out their con going life, going a lot for meet and greets, and I still sometimes do meet and greets too, but meet and greets are a big thing at pretty much most conventions. I mean, usually you're gonna find voice actors. These days I've noticed a lot of anime conventions are actually flying in more Japanese guests. Used to be mostly just dub actors. So that culture is shifting a little bit. Meet and greets now also can include even virtual people like VTubers, of course. But yeah, sometimes they're paid, sometimes they're free, sometimes they're lottery. The mechanics of the meet and greet can vary wildly. But there's usually a meet and greet at anime, comic cons, sometimes gaming cons. Remember, I started to think I would quit cons because I got bored. Glad I found the VTuber community. I actually feel the same way. I was kind of like over cosplaying until I got into VTubers. So I think that's really interesting. A lot of people have actually argued that VTubers have actually helped reinvigorate con culture. I think that's a big reason why they're actually pretty integral to a lot of anime cons, because the fans really like do come out. There's a whole community around VTubers that is stronger than a lot of other communities. Your cosplay game has gone down. You rarely cosplay because you like Wodegain when you're happy. You could always do like one day where you're cosplaying, one day where you're Wodegain. You could even change out of it. You know, that's the advantage of having a hotel. If you get a hotel, you know, you can always mix it up. Don't ever be afraid to step outside your comfort zone. And speaking of that, next point is karaoke. A lot of people don't even know that. Like, a lot of anime cons have karaoke, but I've encountered it a lot. Usually, you know, it's like open mic karaoke where you can go up and you can sing in front of everyone. Just keep in mind, with con karaoke, you're usually gonna be waiting a very, very long time before you can go up and sing. So don't put your name in for an anime con karaoke and expect to go up within the next 30 minutes. Like, slot at least an hour for that, because you're just gonna be there a while. Another thing I've noticed about karaoke is it's more likely to be at nonprofit cons, because for-profit cons are probably not gonna pay someone to staff a karaoke room. I like cosplaying, but I'm also lazy to prepare cosplay. Cosplay can be definitely a lot of preparation, but also it could be not a lot of preparation. I'll get to that later, but cosplay doesn't always have to be a big production. You like to cosplay for AX? AX is a good place to cosplay at, for sure. Besides karaoke, we also have maid cafes. This is pretty much just an anime con thing. A good amount of anime cons do have maid cafes. Sometimes the convention has its own maid cafe that's run by their own staff. Sometimes they bring in an outside maid cafe. I know a lot of SoCal conventions have kind of bring in usually maid cafes from, like, there's groups in SoCal that are kind of brought in to that convention, but they're technically an outside group outside of the convention. But at some other places, for example, Offkai, I know I keep bringing up Offkai, but like has its own maid cafe. Like, it's run by people who are a part of the convention. And that also leads into my point. Some subculture cons actually have their own maid cafes. I even know of coming soon a furry maid cafe up in Ontario, California. So if you're a furry and you want to check that out, I would, but I will not. I do not attend furry conventions, but if I did, that sounds like a real good time. Maid Tangy Doko. Well, I mean, she'll be back eventually. So, also, a lot of conventions, especially this is growing traction these days, because I've noticed the general con demographic has started shifting to much older. It used to be much younger, but a lot of anime cons, most people are in their 20s or 30s. So a lot of cons these days are starting to offer more after dark activities. What that means could be like a night market where they're selling 18 plus stuff or 18 plus programming, etc., etc. Off-Kai Cafe was the reason you visited Maid Cafe in Tokyo. Yeah, I'm so happy that Off-Kai was able to inspire you to check out a real cafe, because that's a super memorable experience to do in Japan. One of my favorites, personally. And so, mostly, I've noticed most Comic-Cons don't really have 18 plus stuff, but more so, most anime cons will have something. And some subculture cons, like most furry conventions, I know, have that sort of stuff. And of course, Off-Kai this year introduced its night market. Yeah. It reignited your Maid Cafe love. Aw. That makes me happy. Cosplay contest. Pretty much almost every convention, big or small, is going to have a cosplay contest. Sometimes they don't do a cosplay contest. Sometimes they do like a showcase. So it'll be a cosplay contest or showcase, but it's at pretty much every convention. Anime, Comic-Con. Not usually gaming, but they're usually there. DJ/dance. Some anime cons, not usually gaming, but sometimes. Some subculture cons. I've noticed usually comic conventions do not have like a DJ/dance, but a lot of anime cons do. So if that's something you're interested in, I recommend checking more anime cons. But they have kind of the whole community of DJs, well, there's different subcultures in that, but in the anime subculture, there's a lot of DJ stuff happening. There's a lot of DJ... I lost my train of thought. There's a lot of DJs surrounding that. Besides that, now I'm talking a little bit more about gaming stuff. We have, the Anikura, yes, DJs. Oh, yes, hello Spirit Snare, you are a DJ. You are one of the DJs in question. Gaming tournaments, any gaming cons, some anime cons will have gaming tournaments. For gaming cons, they're literally the focus of the convention usually. Also coupled with that, we have arcade, which usually is free play, and they have this at a lot of anime cons, even some small ones. And obviously pretty much most gaming cons will have some sort of arcade. You tuned in right now as you mentioned DJs. Oh, I summoned you. It's also tabletop gaming, which is like board games or D&D or whatnot, Warhammer, etc. Pretty much every gaming con will have that. Manifest. Most Comic Cons have tabletop gaming. Some anime cons have this, but it's a really big thing in the gaming cons and the Comic Cons, tabletop games. And last but not least on my non-exhaustive list is the swap meet. Some anime cons, some Comic Cons will have a swap meet, which I love swap meets personally. You can get some really good deals. But an anime themed swap meet is always a fun time. And you can find those at a lot of different anime cons, not usually the small ones though. Okay, obviously there's so many more things that you can do at cons. Some cons have literally so much that this list maybe lists half of the things that some cons have. Of the cons personally I've been to, the convention that I've seen has the most stuff is Fanime. Fanime has literally so much stuff. Even though it's across like 5 days, you still could not do everything there is to do at Fanime. But yeah, some cons, I think Katsu-Con has this, ballroom dancing, fashion, like J-fashion, stuff like that. So, just look at the cons website and they'll tell you everything they have. But if you haven't started looking around at cons and you're trying to figure out like, what do I want to do? Here's where you should look. These are the kind of cons you should look if this is what you're looking to do. How big are cons? This is not a perfect gauge of size, but this is how I'm classifying conventions. A small convention will have an attendance of about 200 to 2,000 people. Usually they're going to be at a hotel. Sometimes they take up a portion of a convention center. Sometimes for really tiny cons, it'll just be one single day. Sometimes they'll go Friday through Sunday, but most of the time, most small conventions will be a Saturday, Sunday thing. And usually they're not crowded, but on occasion, a small con will be unusually popular and be crowded. Of course, like I said, this is not a perfect estimate. This is just my opinion. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a convention scientist, but this is just my thoughts. A medium convention, in my opinion, is something that's usually going to be about 2,000 to 20,000 people. Yes, that is a much bigger margin than the small convention. They're usually located in convention centers, although unless sometimes, like technically Offkai was in a hotel and it technically qualifies as a medium convention, it's definitely skirting that line as of last year. They're usually not crowded, usually. Sometimes they are. And usually they go for 3 to 5 days. Also, drinking game. Take a drink every time I say usually. The Gen 1 hotel was so small. Yeah. Offkai was a very small hotel, small con at first. Most cons will start as a small convention. Typically. Until KFP took it over. That's so true. A large convention is about 20,000 to 135,000 people, which is the attendance of Comic-Con, which is technically the biggest fan convention in the US. And usually they not only take over the entire convention center, but sometimes they bleed into other hotels surrounding the convention center. For example, Comic-Con does this, Fanime does this. Fanime puts stuff in the surrounding hotels. A large convention will almost always outgrow its convention center. Shout out to the Doubletree. I love, yeah, Doubletree is really cute and cozy. I like the Doubletree, the one in San Jose. A large convention is not going to be 1 or 2 days. It is always going to be at least 3 days, sometimes 4, sometimes even 5 whole days. And it's always crowded. It is going to be crowded. Sometimes not insanely crowded, but large conventions are pretty much always crowded. So if you're someone who hates big crowds, don't go to a large convention. But good news, there's other conventions besides just large ones that you can check out. Oh, this is the most unhappy slide. How much do cons cost usually? These are so rough. Like, so rough estimates of things, and also they're coming from a Californian, so this could be much less in other states. I'm not sure. But this is about what I would say is how much I would usually spend on a convention. Your reaction when AX expanded to have the official day 0. Yeah, usually a con will start leaking into other days as they grow bigger. Me flying across the country for small cons. I don't fly across the country for small cons, but I will say, I have under small conventions that travel. Usually you would probably only go to a small con if it's less than a 3-hour drive. The exception to this is always subculture conventions. If you really love something and there's like one convention in the whole country that's dedicated to that one thing you're obsessed with, you're probably gonna fly across the country for it. But the good news about small conventions, usually the badge price for a day will be $10 to $30, sometimes more, sometimes even free, who knows. For weekend, usually paying $30 to $60, sometimes maybe more, sometimes less, but that's about the range. For how much you're paying, like I said, I usually just drive to small conventions. Food, usually you're probably not going to be there a whole long time, so you might be spending a bit less on food. Hotel, usually I don't even do a hotel for small cons, but if I am doing a hotel at a small con, typically we're talking 100 to 200 a night. And for budgeting merch, since the artist alley and the exhibit halls are smaller, you're usually less likely to spend a bunch of money. So the amount spent could range from 10 to 100, sometimes more if you go crazy. I don't know. But I tend to buy barely anything at small cons. ANYC was hella expensive, like 90 a day, so I didn't go. Yeah, large conventions can be super, super expensive. Small cons are best for vibing. I grind to get my merch at the big ones. Yeah, I actually didn't talk too much about the vibes of different conventions, but that's a good reminder that I should also kind of discuss the difference in vibes. I guess to start off with a small convention, the vibes are going to be much cozier. It's easier to make friends. There's less walking around, so it can be easier to cosplay. Usually you don't have to wait in line a whole lot to get into things. Although unless there has been a miscalculation in the popularity for certain things, then you might have to wait in line. They're really fun for like relaxing. They feel more like a vacation than a large convention, which feels like a journey. I find way more niche merch at small cons, which is nice. Well, that's a good point. Sometimes you might find stuff you don't usually see at big cons, at small conventions. You made con friends at small cons. Yeah. If you're someone who wants to make friends, go to a small convention. And then it will make it easier to go to the medium and large conventions. A lot of my friends that I've made that I'm like closest to, I made at Offkai, when it was a very small convention in its first year. Small cons have super niche and rare merch. That's interesting. I mean, I could see that, but I don't know how much I've noticed it like a whole lot. Now talking about the cost of a medium convention. You're definitely going to be paying more for a badge. Usually 30 to 50 for a day, 50 to 90 for a weekend, sometimes less depending on what it is. Sometimes more, really just depends, but that's the average, I would say. Traveling would probably be like an in-state flight at most. Oh, in-state, I mean, okay. If you're Californian, I guess it's an in-state flight. If you live in a smaller state, probably neighboring state flight, unless you would, I don't know, actually, now that I think about it, the East Coast has some really tiny states, and you guys just kind of drive from state to state on a whim, so generally medium conventions, maybe you'll travel a little further for, so you might want to factor in a little bit more money for travel. For food, medium conventions are longer, so you're probably going to be spending more money on food. And because it's going to be a little bit more popular of a hotel, and it usually is going to be the hotels by the convention center, because usually medium cons are at convention centers, you're going to be paying a little bit more for a night, usually more in that 120 to 125, so 120 to 250 range. I remember bonding over VTubers with you at TwitchCon in 2022. Yes, yeah, TwitchCon is a big con, but also just goes to show you that it's still possible to make friends and talk to people at bigger cons. It just depends on your approach. Regional planes. Also, yes, since convention centers tend to be in the downtown area of where they're located, the places around the convention are probably going to be more expensive. For instance, if you're going to a convention in downtown San Diego at the convention center, the places downtown are going to be like way more expensive than a little hotel con in San Diego, which is going to be Mission Valley, which is going to be like way less expensive. Definitely felt that during AX, yes. Also, Yard House mention. We love Yard House. But yeah, so that's the reason why I would say you're going to be spending a little bit more on food for medium con. For a large convention, this is where you really got to save up because it gets really expensive really fast, especially for cons like AX or ANYC. Your badge price is going to be more in that 40 to 70 range per day, sometimes 90 to 350 for a weekend. Most cons aren't going to be 350, but for example, Comic-Con is like 70 a day, so you'd be paying about that much. Actually, I guess that would be 280. I actually don't know, maybe 350 might be too much of an estimate. I would say a better one would probably be 90 to 250. But cons can be up there in price, especially if they're not nonprofit. So yeah. And most people are probably more likely to do a very long drive or a more lengthy flight for large conventions, so that's usually going to be more of a travel cost. And the food, not only do you usually have that downtown tax for the food you're buying, but it's going to be super busy, probably for a large convention, and it might be even more because it's going to be one of those big events. And the hotel, this hurts so bad. The hotel prices for large conventions can be brutal. If you don't get in, even if you don't get in the room block for some cons, you're basically screwed. Even if you do get in the room block, you still could be paying a lot of money if you're trying to be close to the convention center. But your hotels are probably going to be ranging from $150 to $350. And merch-wise, the large cons is the worst for trying to save money because the exhibit halls and the artist alley are so big that you're going to see so much stuff and you're going to want to buy so much stuff. So the merch budget is definitely more up there. So overall, I have the range of like 300 to 1,000. It could even be more than 1,000 in some cases. I personally would not spend that much, but 300 as a very low end. That might be more if you're a local to the large convention that you are attending. So yeah, whew, boy, looking at those prices, that is scary. I'm like, oh, don't remind me. But luckily, I have some tips on how to save money at cons. The most really obvious thing is to just go to the conventions near where you live. This can be easier said than done, and usually your local cons will be smaller, so you won't get the excitement of a big con. But it's also the best if you're looking to make friends. It does make sense to make friends at local cons, because if you are planning to make friends you can hang out with outside of conventions, you're probably going to want to go to a convention that's within driving distance of where you live. I like having my niche Steins Gate interests since I don't buy merch often, but when I do, you spend like 500. Yeah, that's a good tip. Another way to save money, just have really niche, uncommon interests, so you're not like finding things to buy all the time. Also, if you are driving to a con and you have friends in your area who are also going, carpool, split the gas price, split that parking price. That parking price can sometimes be pretty crazy. It's kind of obvious, but yeah, that's local cons. Another thing, a lot of us forget this, I forget this, but it's also important to keep in mind, registering early for cons. Sometimes it can be hard to guarantee that we're going to be able to go to a certain con. What? Why did it just quit? Sorry, my window just disappeared. Okay, we're back. Early bird badge pricing. Most cons will let you save money if you buy it months in advance, a month in advance, whatever. The reason why conventions will offer discounts if you buy early is because as a con organizer, having more of an idea of what your attendance is going to be ahead of time helps you in your planning, and it helps you save money. Figuring out if it's like a hotel con or using hotels, what your food budget should be, infrastructure, security, and stuff. The more of a picture a con can get ahead of time, the better. So they try to incentivize buying your badge early by offering a bit of a discount. So not only if you buy your badge early are you saving a bit of money, but you're also helping the con out, especially if it's non-profit, into figuring out how they're gonna do this thing. Also, sometimes registering early for con is the only way you're gonna get in that hotel block, and the hotel block might be the only way you're gonna afford that hotel. So with some cons, like bigger cons, it's so important that you buy your ticket ahead of time if you're trying to get a hotel. I'm always like, yeah, I'm not going to that con, so I missed the early bird, and then they invite my favorite VTuber, and I'm cooked since they announced it after early bird. I definitely feel that pain. It can be pretty frustrating when a con announces like someone you really want to see super last minute. Super common. I think most conventions will usually not announce the big guests until way after early bird pricing is over. So usually for the early bird pricing, that's more for the cons that are like your regular cons. So when you're gonna go back to year after year, because you had a really good time and you like how it's run, and that's like your regular con. Not me and procrastinating on hotel and travel plans. Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that. Anime Frontier was cool for announcing Kiara like months in advance. That's true. I remember they did. It's super nice when cons are able to announce that really early. So that's like really obvious stuff, I guess, for saving money. Another really obvious one is sharing hotel rooms, but not too much. I know sometimes we may be tempted to share a hotel room with like 6 people. That's not a good idea. First of all, oh my god, I don't even... So first of all, someone ends up sleeping on the floor, painful. Maybe I just say that because I have a bad back, but like, oh my god. I mean, you're already gonna be so tired from the con, and then you're just like passing out on a floor. I mean, come on, people. Second of all, if you're cosplaying or you have cosplayers in the room, the bathroom situation is disastrous. Yeah. I don't know. For me, like, the pain of sharing a hotel room to the point of overcapacity is more trouble than it's worth. Like, I'd rather just go to less cons than do that, unless it's your absolute last resort, or maybe like the housing's all sold out, like your only other choice is like $700 room, then I get it, you know. But for a medium small con, like, just consider not doing that. Back in your college day, you've done 15 to a room. That's breaking like fire codes, dude. You're on the floor for a certain VTuber con. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I could see how Off-Kai would be a con where a lot of people would be fitting into one room because that freaking hotel was so expensive. Totally breaking fire code. I can imagine for girls it might be tough to do a lot of people in the room. Yeah, definitely. Like I'm saying, like cosplaying with the makeup, it's a little nightmarish. Unless you bring like a bunch of mirrors extra. Guys can just sleep on a chair or in the tub. Oh god. What if someone has to take a shower? Then what? Just have them shower while you're sleeping in the tub? What if someone's waking up at 6 a.m. and you're asleep in the tub, and then someone comes in and they're like, sorry bro, I gotta take my shower, and then you're just drowning. Okay, so back to my original point. Don't share a room that much, but consider splitting a room with 1 to 3 other people. A reasonable amount, because when you even split a room in half, that's so much money you're saving. But of course, most importantly, find people you trust. Try to avoid rooming with strangers. Could be a pretty bad idea, especially if they're not good. If you share a room with a stranger, like keep your stuff locked up. You know, bring a baseball bat to bed in case they try to get you in your sleep. No, I'm just kidding. Hopefully. But yeah, just be reasonable. But you know, I've definitely, like, I used to not have any friends to split a room with, so I used to just get my own room. But after making friends, and I'm like, oh my god, cons are so much less money now. You didn't have any cosplayers in your room, but it was co-ed, largely tight-knit group of people. That does sound kind of fun. Just turn it off. Oh my god. Trusting people is hard. Yeah. Yeah, that's the problem. If you don't really have a lot of friends in the con scene yet, it could be hard to share a room, but just keep trying. I will get to how you can make friends later, and it will help you with this point of sharing hotel rooms. But besides sharing hotel rooms, another advice I have is to bring your own food. If you're going to a small con for the day, bring your own lunch, put a sandwich in your bag. If some places don't allow food, unfortunately, in that case, my advice is that if you're driving somewhere and you're parked nearby, put like a cooler in your trunk and then go get your lunch from your car and then eat it. This is especially important for big cons where you're paying like $1 million for food. Also bring your own empty reusable water bottle. Like, don't be going around spending like $4 for a bottle of water. Okay, bring a reusable water bottle. There will be water stations or water fountains. Fill it up there. Stay hydrated, but I would highly advise against giving the convention center $30 a day for some water. Hydrate everyone, yeah. VTuber fans and KFP are usually cool, it's true. We had a whole playbook for optimizing space, including hacks like pushing the beds together and pushing it against the corner. Stuff like that, but yeah, the CO2 levels are probably insane. Yeah, just another reason you should not share a hotel room with 15 people. The CO2 levels. You could get brain damage, you could die, you know, stuff like that. That's why instead of saving money by cramming 15 people in a room, you should save money by bringing your reusable water bottle or a sandwich. Okay, but let's say you aren't just going to a con for the day and you're staying in a hotel. Well, I have some really specific tips for that. First of all, bring food into your hotel room. Bring like a cup noodle, and you can use the hot water boiler that you may or may not have in your room. Just check ahead of time. And you can, instead of paying $30 for lunch, you can have your little cup noodle for like $1. That's a life hack right there. Or bring Cliff Bars or nutrition bars, whatever. Don't pay $6 for Starbucks inside the convention center. Drink the hotel room coffee, you know, stuff like that. That will help you save a little bit, so you can spend it more on anime merch. Speaking of anime merch, this is another sort of unrelated tip, but something like it can be really hard to budget in the exhibit hall or the artist alley when you just are like, you know, put it on the card, charge it, you know. It can be really hard to keep track of your spending. So the best way to do this is to just bring cash. Bring a set amount of cash. Maybe ahead of time, if you can stop by your bank or your credit union and withdraw like a certain amount of cash. Be like, this is my budget, and like, don't spend more than your cash. First of all, you're not paying tax. If you're at the artist alley, they're not gonna make you give them 53 cents of tax. So you're saving money on tax. And once you're out of money, you're done. That's the budgeting hack. Woo! Definitely do not do it in Burlingame Hyatt, where circulation is very, very suboptimal. Oh no. At my local cons, I bring a sandwich stuff. Yeah, see? Local cons, bring a sandwich. All the cool kids are doing it. Bring a sandwich. Okay. This slide got really aggressive, so I'm sorry about that. But that's my advice for saving money. If you're someone who drinks, another thing you could do if you're staying in a hotel, which is great because if you're staying in a hotel, you probably aren't driving home, so it's a good opportunity to let loose. And instead of paying $1 million for a drink at the bar, you could always pregame in your room, and that is a good idea if you're someone who drinks. If you're not someone who drinks, then you're saving so much money. Like, it's crazy. You save so much money by not drinking. Tanky hates rooming with more than 3 people. I mean, that's true. I do not like rooming with more than 3 people. That's accurate. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any more tips for saving money, but that's the main one, really. Tanky teaching us how to drink. I'm not teaching you how to drink. I'm just giving you tips. This is my saving money tips. This is for your friends who do drink. You know, this is me speaking. Beer gets the best mean now at Yard House. We're always just talking about Yard House in here. Okay, moving on from money saving. Now we're gonna talk about something so important. Which is how to make friends. I spent a long time trying to figure out how to do this at cons because I would just go to cons alone. I still sometimes go to cons alone. I actually recommend it. I think going to cons alone can be really fun. It's actually really easier to make friends when you go alone. But before that, you know, I just didn't really have any friends I could go to conventions with. I mean, yes, I'd have friends, but like not con friends, you know? No one would want to slog around with me at a convention center surrounded by sweaty nerds all day. So I had to make those friends, you know, you could cosplay with, share rooms with, etc. Here are some ways I found are best for talking to people, meeting people in like a friendly way. Staffing or volunteering for cons is actually a really good way to make friends because especially when you staff, when you volunteer for a con, that's different. Volunteering, usually you show up on the day of the con and there's not really much pre-planning. You're not really going to be meeting people before the con. Usually you might talk to some people or meet some people on your shift, so that's a good way. Staffing, on the other hand, you're going to meet people before the con because you're like working with other people, and that's a good way to like bond with people by mutual pain. I mean mutual sacrifice. I mean mutual work. And yeah, I've made so many friends being staff for Off-Kai, so I recommend it. It's like almost like the cheat code being staff. Another thing is, this is not common to all cons, but sometimes cons might have mixers or even parties that you could go to, or like a creator connection or something. That could be a way, because I don't see this at most cons. It's not like my number one go-to for making friends, but it's, you know, it's there. Cosplay gatherings. If you're cosplaying and there's a cosplay gathering for what you're cosplaying, this is such an easy way to make friends because you can talk to people, and usually they'll want to talk to you, sometimes not, but most people wearing the cosplay like the thing they're cosplaying or the characters, so it could be an easy way to bond. Even if you're not cosplaying, it can be a good way to meet other fans of that thing. And let's say you're taking pictures of the cosplays and you're like, hey bro, you like Hatsune Miku, and then you guys could bond over that, you know? I'll be volunteering for Off-Kai as soon as they open. Yay, that's what I like to hear. But yeah, cosplay gatherings. Not every cosplay gathering will yield a friend, but you know, it's a good way to start a conversation. This is a super secret life hack talk to people in line. And not just because they're a captive audience, but because usually... Okay, yeah, because they're a captive audience, but also you're likely in line for something you already have a mutual interest in. So that's already something. Let's say you're in line for a panel about, I don't know, slime women. And there's like another person in line, and you would assume, you know, they're in line for the same thing and be like, hey bro, you like slime woman, you know? Maybe not so awkwardly, but like, you know, you could be like, oh. Or maybe you're in line and they have like a shirt from something not necessarily related to what you're in line for, but you could be like, hey, you like jazz or whatever their shirt is, and that's always a conversation starter. That's why I advise always wear, if you're not cosplaying, always wear your fan merch to cons, because it makes it really easy for people to talk to you and you to talk to other people. Oh no, the bots are here. Goodbye. What is talking to people? I am explaining. Cosplaying in general, even outside of cosplay gatherings, a lot of people tend to talk to you when you're cosplaying. I don't know, something about cosplaying just makes people talk to you, whether they're cosplaying like the same thing. Let's say you're cosplaying like Genshin Impact, and you see someone that is cosplaying another Genshin Impact character, and you're like, hey, let's take a picture together. And then sometimes, you know, when you ask someone to take a picture together, you can strike up a conversation. Oh, hi, it's Senjicho. Thank you for coming. So that, okay, I don't think Genshin Impact is a good example though, because there's so many this is a really specific, this is a really nitty-gritty take, but cosplaying a niche thing is actually more the way of getting other people from that niche to talk to you. Like, what I've noticed, I feel like when it's something that a million other people are cosplaying, people are probably less likely to either ask for pictures or want to talk, because it's like, oh, well, another Genshin fan, you know. But if it's something really like really obscure, and you see another person cosplaying that, then you see each other and you're like, oh my god, a blank cosplayer, I never see you. And then you're like so excited and you're like, oh, we're so rare. This is super specific, I'm sorry. I don't hate Genshin. But you understand. And I know this because VTubers used to be the thing where it's like you'd see another VTuber or like Hollow cosplayer and you'd be like, oh my god, someone else is cosplaying a Hollow Myth girl, and it's like super exciting. But now, I mean, I still am like, oh, it's really cool when I see someone who's like cosplaying like a Hololive or VTuber, but you know, now that it's more common, most people are probably going to be less pressed to run to you and ask for a picture. But, you know, that's just how it goes. So many people approaching me as a white blood cell. Yeah, because people don't really cosplay the cells at work that much these days. You saw Lane at ALA? Oh, Lane. That sounds cool. That happened to me when I found my local Steins Gate cosplayer. Yeah, see? Sometimes you cosplay something that's more of a throwback or like some niche thing. Like, for example, at ANYC, like I saw a girl cosplaying the Neg Fairy from Neopets, and it was like so exciting. I'm like, oh my god, and then we started talking about Neopets. It's like that niche thing. Anyways, getting off track, sorry, but cosplaying niche stuff is, funny enough, a really good way to talk to people. But yeah, in general, I've already said this, but smaller cons or subculture conventions tend to be friendlier. Subculture conventions are such a good way to make friends because you are all crazy nerds obsessed with the same thing. They have this vibe, I can't explain it, but it's really easy to make friends at like niche cons. now I'm gonna get more into specifics. So I'm gonna have some do's and don'ts of talking to people at cons, and this is not an exhaustive list. There's like a million of do's and don'ts, but this is my advice for talking to people. I'm not an expert, but I tend to be a lot more outgoing at cons, so I find it easier to write in the context of a convention. So the first thing, and this is why talking to people at cons is so much easier than in real life, is that you're more likely to find a point of common interest, because usually at cons, people are wearing like fan shirts. Like maybe they're wearing like everything in my room is VTubers, so I'm struggling to say they're wearing like I'm struggling to find something. Say they're wearing like a Rent-A-Girlfriend shirt. And you're like, oh my god, dude, I love your shirt, you know? Or maybe they have a keychain. You'd be like, nice keychain. Like, I love Gumi or something. I think KFP is your thing. Do not shower. This is making you miss cons. Good, you keep going to cons. True, at cons somehow I get less anxious and shy. Yeah, that is why I love cons, because it's so much easier to come out of your shell. Like, this is why I love them. But yeah, first point, super important point, find a common interest. Look at what they're wearing. Like I said, if you're in line for something, you can talk about what you're in line for. Maybe you're in line for like a show you love, and they probably like that show too. So maybe you're in line for a panel about like the Owl House or something at a comic convention, and there's someone else in line. You're like, oh, what'd you think of the season finale? And you know what, sometimes it might be like, oh, I haven't watched the new season yet. Sometimes I am that person, but you know what, you can still branch off from there and be like, oh, well, who's your favorite character, blah blah blah, I don't know. I made a new friend because we both thought Rent-A-Girlfriend was not good. Oh. Oh. Bonding over mutual hate. That's understandable. But yeah, so that's my biggest piece of advice. But also, I implore you, please practice personal hygiene. I don't think anyone in this chat I've ever noticed had this problem, but you know, please wear deodorant. It's super important, and I'm sure most of you already do, so I probably don't really need to say this, but some people might not want to talk to you if you're not wearing it. Sorry. But the good news is it's such a fixable thing. Consider the timing of the situation. For example, if you are talking to someone in line, start the conversation earlier rather than right before entering the room. The sweaty Anyakura. Also, I want to say, I know during summer seasons, because I had this problem the other day when I was at a gathering. It was so hot. It's hard when it's hot and you're like, oh, sweaty. I'm sweaty. No one wants to talk to me when I'm sweaty. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying just deodorant will help that. I've had that problem before, and during the summer months, it's like, oh no, and then you're already self-conscious about it, but like, oh my god, some of the rooms though, yeah, the Anycure room, it gets hot. If you're in a sweaty room, maybe don't worry about it as much, because I'm sure everyone's already feeling that, but oh my god, sorry, I'm rambling. I didn't want to talk about this much. One con, I was actually so close to accidentally leaving. Yeah, I mean, you know what? Once or twice in my life, I've forgotten. It sucks. I'm sorry. Oh, I probably should have told you that. But it happens to the best of us. Just make a habit of it. You love the rambling. Yeah, more cons should have the free con deodorant for the people who might have forgotten it. It happens. Okay, sorry. On to considering the timing of the situation. Wow, have I really only been streaming for... Oh my god, my timer. Wait. I like look. Sorry, I just like looked at my OBS and I realized it's like frozen. Oh. How am I still streaming? Oh. Huh. So I just noticed my iPad monitor froze. And I was like, how am I streaming right now? OBS is gone, but no, I thought I was only streaming for 45 minutes and I'm like, how is that possible? And I thought I had time traveled or something, but no, it was just running in the background. Anyways, I'm still live, that's good. It's only been like an hour, okay. This should be a well-lengthed stream then. So this is something I've been guilty of because I get too scared to talk to someone. I'll be like, oh, I should talk to them. Oh, no. Oh, no, I should. You know, like you're in your brain and you're like, oh, should I talk to them? But it's better if you're in line, for instance, to talk to someone sooner rather than later. Because if you wait too long and you've maybe have like 1 minute before you're going in the room, then you have that really awkward situation where you're like kind of talking to someone, but then it's time to go in the room and it's like, ooh, do we sit with each other? Do we not sit with each other? Like, you have to have enough time when you talk to people in line for a panel to like either bond enough to gauge whether or not you can sit together. That's an example. But there's so many other timing things. Another one, let's say you're at a cosplay gathering and you're trying to strike up a conversation, but you're doing it like way towards the end of the gathering. Well, just keep in mind that person might have to run somewhere, like right after the gathering. Some people have very busy con schedules, but yeah, just keep that in mind. But also don't get too hung up on the timing because it's not really the most important thing usually. And lastly, in my do page is gauge interest. I know this isn't always easy because some people are really good at hiding when they don't really want to talk to you. But when people make it obvious, usually it's like they'll respond to you with only a few words. Like, for example, let's say you say to someone, hey, I see you're wearing like a I see you're wearing a Takanashi Kiara shirt. Is she your favorite VTuber? And then they say, yeah, I like her. And you're like, oh, okay. But they don't really ask you a question back. Maybe you could shoot like one more shot, be like, oh, what's your favorite thing about her? And they're like, I think she's funny. And then they don't say anything back. Then maybe it's time to get out of that conversation. I would give it 3 shots, and if they miss, get out of that conversation, because some people do make it really obvious. Some people maybe not so much. Some people are really polite, and that's when it's a bit tricky, because you then have to really try to figure out like, oh, are they humoring me? Are they not? But if you're not overthinking it, the best way is if they're asking you questions back. If they're not asking you questions back, that is a clear sign they don't want to talk to you. Okay, now the don'ts. Oh, sorry. I went ahead a little far. Don't talk to people during a concert or panel. Some guy tried to do this to me the other day. I was literally at a concert, in the middle of the concert, while she's talking and performing, and like this guy was trying to talk to me, and I'm like, don't talk to someone when they're watching something. Like, it's super rude, honestly. They're there to listen to that person on the screen. So please don't do this. This is an obvious one, but just wanted to make it known. This is a not so obvious one because I've been guilty of this a few times until I realized, don't make small talk with artists or exhibitors at busy times because they might not want to miss out on sales. So let's say, you see an artist and it's like the middle of the day Saturday, but you see they have this cool like niche thing for sale and you're like, oh, you like Danganronpa? Rompa, how do you say it? Shit, I don't know. Do you like I don't know. I don't have enough of a variety of things in this room. Oh, you like Hololive? Golly, I love Hololive, but it's like there's people trying to buy stuff from them, And you gotta be careful because you don't really want to make them miss out on sales, So just like keep that in mind. But, don't be afraid to be like, oh, hey, I loved your print. Like, that's super cool. And just keep it brief. Like, if there's people clearly waiting. If there's clearly no one waiting, though, to buy stuff, don't worry about it. Most artists like having a little bit of talking. As long as you're not being rude. Most artists don't mind talking to you. Same with the exhibitors. So yeah, if you really, really have to talk to someone, come back at the end of the day or like late on Sunday, and if they're not packing up, maybe you could talk to them a little bit, but don't stay obviously past the exhibit hall opening or closing because it's also not good. Unless it's already established that you both don't like something, don't assume that someone doesn't like something. Because just because someone likes X doesn't mean they hate Y. Like, just because someone likes Hololive doesn't mean they hate Hollow Stars. Or just because someone likes Twitch VTubers doesn't mean they hate YouTube VTubers. Or just because someone likes Hololive doesn't mean they hate Niji Sanji, like, don't make that assumption because that's not always the case. So just keep that in mind. Just I've probably been guilty of this one or two times too, but just avoid it generally, but sometimes though the biggest bonds are formed over mutual hate, but just tread carefully. Okay, so let's say the conversation went pretty well and you're like, you talked for several minutes, maybe like 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, and you're really hitting it off, and you're like, okay, like, I have to go, but like, you want to exchange Twitter handles, or like, do you have a Twitter or something? And they're like, yeah, and then you exchange it, and one of you has to go on your way, but you have a point of contact. Oh my god, what now? 9 times out of 10, it's probably not going to lead to anything. But it could. Just because, though, you don't become besties is not the end of the world. It's okay. You might actually see them around, and you can say hi, maybe have a quick conversation. And you know what? Sometimes this can actually naturally lead into a friendship. I've definitely had those. Those can be nice because they're not so concerning because you see someone multiple times, you have those good convos, and it's like natural. But what if you're like, this person is so cool, like I really want to be their friend, and you felt a good vibe from them that maybe they think you're cool too. The best way to help push that more into an actual friendship is to just message them later. Maybe not immediately. Maybe wait like a few hours or towards the end of the day and be like, hey, it was really nice talking to you. Hope to see you another con. Or maybe it's like Friday or Saturday and you got a really good vibe from them. You could even say, hey, do you have any other plans for the con? Or like, hey, would you like to go do this? Or would you like to, I don't know, there's a million things you could ask them, but you know, it could even be that bold if you get good enough energy. But that is my advice for that. I'm in a perpetual state of simultaneous, I want to talk to people and also having social anxiety, and I don't want to bother people. I think I totally get that because I'm literally like, I wrote this, you guys. Well, that's why that's literally why I'm making this guide, because I want to be helpful in some way. Maybe this isn't super helpful, but don't ever just assume you're bothering people. It's super rare at a con that you're actually bothering someone, especially if you're not approaching someone with like a creepy intent. Munch, which I've never got that from you, by the way, or any of you people. If you're approaching someone with platonic intentions, 9 times out of 10, they're not going to be bothered by you. So just assume that it could go well, you know? Just assume the best and don't worry about someone being, you know? Just try. Just give it a shot. Okay, so this is switching gears a little bit, but it's kind of related. If you're someone who is not just looking for some chill friends to hang out with, but you're actually trying to network, this is a really brief guide. At the end, we all kind of suck at talking, but that's why we go to cons. If you're someone who sucks at talking, like, that's why cons are such a good way to help improve that. First thing about networking is that, like, what is your purpose for networking? Are you a vlogger trying to talk to other vloggers or other content creators? Are you a streamer trying to talk to other streamers or people who might be related to that? Are you convention staff on behalf of the convention? Are you an artist trying to advocate for yourself? Industry professional, blah, blah, blah. Like, what, have like a purpose, like what you're trying to present yourself as. And going along with that, make business cards and bring them. Don't forget them. Put them in your suitcase and then take them out of your suitcase and put them in a bag and bring them to the convention center. This is important. Not super important, but it's important. Have Tangy stickers ready. Yeah. Stickers are actually a really fun thing to give people at cons. You have your business cards. Okay, so maybe you go to a mixer, maybe you are out on the floor. The most important thing is to make a genuine connection. So, like, have an actual conversation with someone before telling them your stuff. Try to make the conversation more about them than about you. Let them talk about themselves. Or just have a real conversation about something that you are both interested in, you know? Like, don't shove them your business card and run away. Sometimes we all make mistakes and we accidentally do this, but generally I would advise, like, you know, talk to people for real. Been thinking about making business cards for your socials and Oshi's. Business cards, even if you're not someone like who's like a social media personality or like a, I don't know. Cosplaying, people network for cosplaying a little bit too. People make cosplay cards. Or even if you're just a fan, you're trying to like connect with other fans, you know, business cards, they're good. They're just cool. They just make you feel cool, you know? And if you are just, you know, meeting other fans, the business cards will help you, like Okabe says, remember people. Or they remember you. They're fun. Digital business cards, yeah, you could always use also digital business cards. You know a KFP girl that collects the business cards, which is pretty cool. Oh my god, that's so funny because I feel like I got another KFP business card the other day and I'm like, wow, I'm starting a real collection of these. But that means I should probably make a KFP business card so I can add to that. Back on topic. Yeah, just like I said, make a genuine connection. And then once you've had a pretty good conversation, you feel it reaching its end, maybe, you know, you feel like it's been a good time and you're feeling it kind of reach that conclusion, before you're exiting, before you make your exit, give them your business card and be like, hey, I do this. Just let me know if you ever, for example, let's say you talk to someone who's like a streamer and you have a good conversation, you meet them, they tell you about their stuff, etc., etc. But you feel like, you know, the conversation's nearing its end. Let's say you're someone who's an artist. So when you're reaching the end of the conversation, give them your card and be like, hey, it was really nice talking to you. Just so you know, like, here's my card, like, let me know if you ever need, I don't know, like an art or like a, that was super specific. Let me know if there's ever anything you need, you know, and exit. Usually, you know, they're probably not gonna reach back out, but you never know. Maybe you'll run into them again, they'll be like, oh, you're the person who does art. You're a staff member, you can probably make it a legit business. Oh. Did I ever give you one of my business cards yet? I do have one of your business cards, Spirit Snare. I like the gotcha business cards. That's a fun idea. I'm gonna need some throat coat tea after this. This is a lot of talking. Also, something to note is, maybe don't do this if you don't feel like it's super relevant. It usually is, but I mean, okay, you can give them your business cards, but don't really like get too into your thing if you don't feel like it's relevant. Like, for example, let's say you're advocating on behalf of a convention and this person's like, I don't know. Actually, think of a better one. Let's say you're an artist and you're talking to a vlogger. Vloggers probably aren't going to usually need an artist. You know what? Honestly, I guess most things are usually relevant to something. So it's actually not very common you probably won't be relevant in some way to what this other person does. So that's cool, I guess. But yeah, that's just some networking basics. I'm not an expert. I'm kind of new to networking, but this is just what I can think of. Here's a very important question that people have asked me, and I want to make this very clear. Should you cosplay? Yes, everyone should cosplay. There is not much reason not to. Even if it's just like one day of the con, even if it's just for 1 hour, even if it's you do it once and never again, like, it's fun to try. It can be super... It's not for everyone, but honestly, like, just try it. If you're thinking about it, just do it. There is not a wrong way to cosplay. You can make your own one cosplay, you can buy one, or even a mix of both. There is not a shame in buying a costume. Even the people I know who are like talented seamstresses who make most of their costumes are not past sometimes just buying one, because sometimes it does make more sense to buy a cosplay than to make one. There are some things that look better when they're mass produced, whether it's like a jacket that has like sublimation or I don't know, it's just something that would be very difficult to make specific. There's no but even then, there's no, you could just buy it. If you can't make it, then buy it. Or if you can't buy it, then make it. And you don't have to be amazing at making things. Just work with what you have and just try. You know? Conflicted on wearing hoppies or cosplaying. I mean, why not both? Just saying. Low-cost cosplays, yeah. With my Okabe cosplay, I sometimes do both, but some cosplays are hard to wear. Yes, some are hard to wear. All my cosplays are bought. I'm too lazy. And you know, honestly, a lot of people, a lot of us are very busy. Not everyone has all damn day to make a costume from scratch, unless you're super passionate about it, about making stuff, you know. And if you want to try making it, I implore you to. It can be really fun and rewarding. And sometimes it can be an uphill battle, but you know, either way, there's no wrong way to cosplay. Another thing you can do, if you're kind of wanting to straddle the line, buy one and then improve upon it. You know, for instance, my Edelgard cosplay is mostly bought, but there's some things about the bought one I didn't like. The cape, I do not like the fake velvet, so I just remade the cape with real velvet. Or like, I didn't like they had like this thing that were like metals, and I didn't like those, so I bought some 3D printed ones and painted them and then put the, like, you can just buy it and then improve upon it. You can buy it and not improve upon it. There's so many ways you can do it. And it can be as inexpensive as $25 or as expensive as thousands of dollars if you're into that. And it can be as simple as just putting it on, no makeup, maybe not even a wig, and just calling it a day and just going out there, and you're just like Spider-Man, you know? That's super easy. That doesn't have to be a whole thing. Or, you know, it could be as complicated as working on a costume for weeks and spending hours on your makeup. Whatever suits you is cosplay. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't matter how you start or how you wear it. It's just for fun. And it's a great way to make friends. So don't be afraid. Okay, but let's say you're like, listen girl, I don't want to cosplay. Like, that sounds super annoying and too much work, too much money, and I just don't have any interest. Like, it seems fun, but like I just don't want to do it. But you're like, but I just don't want to I want to do more than just wander the exhibit hall. As an attendee, like, I want to feel like I'm a part of the convention scene. There are ways you can do that. This is just a few random things. The most obvious one is to join staff. Convention staff. That gives you a purpose right there. You can also become a cosplay photographer. Like, if you're able to afford a nice camera, maybe do some practice. You can walk around the halls and take pictures and post it with their permission, and you know, that's how you could grow a following, and cosplayers are also very grateful to that service. You could become a blogger or a vlogger. You know, you could write about or share your experiences of the convention. Sometimes if you get a big enough repertoire, you could even become press. And finally, if you're knowledgeable about something, especially at smaller cons, you could try hosting a panel. Doesn't necessarily mean the application will be approved, but it might, and then you'll be a panelist, and then you'll have something else to do. So, I mean, there's any number of ways you can become involved in a con community, but those are some obvious ones. But just being an attendee too is valid. That's if you just want to have fun. Honestly, cons are super fun, and if you're just going to have fun, then do it. Okay, I just realized this at the end. Sorry, I didn't mean I just kept going back and forth. Okay, this is the time. If anyone has any questions or topics you want me to delve into that you weren't really thinking of earlier, now is the time. I am happy to talk about anything, really. Any part of conventions. Whether it's like staffing, whether it's whether it's cosplaying, whether it's what different conventions are like, whether it's how maybe cons have changed in the last 10 years, anything you want to ask, you know. leave the comment down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. But yeah, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I feel a little crazy just starting back up with streaming with a very long talking stream. But it's okay. If you, by the way, if you're someone who is talking a lot and you need to help your voice, I highly recommend throat coat tea. It is the best. Okay, I don't know if anyone has any questions, but throat coat tea is the goat, yeah. I guess that's... Oh, man. Is there anything? I didn't really have time to... I'm sure there's more stuff, but... How do you get to enjoy the con while also staffing / volunteering a lot of hours, while also balancing basic needs like sleeping, eating, etc.? The con staff survival guide. Okay. You know, it's funny because I didn't actually go too into taking care of yourself in this one, because honestly I do feel like there's already a lot of guides out there on taking care of yourself at cons, but a lot of people do point to the 6-2-1 rule, which is 6 hours of sleep, 2 meals a day, and 1 shower. I almost forgot what the one is. Obviously, technically, you're supposed to eat 3 meals a day, and you should probably be regularly getting more than 6 hours of sleep, but this is just supposed to be the bare minimum you're supposed to have. But how to do that when you're staff? Well, it really depends on the con. With some cons that are smaller, it can be really hard to have that balance because there's usually less people staffing at smaller cons. You might be more involved, so you feel more pressure. When you're staffing at larger cons, you actually might not feel that pressure because everything's usually been run for much longer and it's more compartmentalized, and unless you're in a super high position, there's probably not going to be a whole lot of stress on you. But let's say that you are staffing a con that is small and you are struggling to keep your needs your needs met. No, your needs met. Well, set your boundaries. If you do not have set times for when you're supposed to be working, or actually no, yeah, set your boundaries. Don't let people make you work, or don't make yourself work for so much time that you're unable to eat or sleep. For example, just once have a time, let's say it's 8 or it's 9 or whatever, and let's say you started at like 9 a.m. Don't have a time, maybe like 9 p.m. where you're like, I'm done for the day. You are not getting me to do anything else right now. I am done. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Sincerely, someone who will forget to eat, drink another entire day. Also, bring water, bring a water bottle, drink the water. If you can't eat, at least drink water. Have some coffee at the beginning of the day before you start your thing. Have like a Cliff Bar or a Nutri-Grain bar or something, or fruit. Eat something. It doesn't have to be a 4-course meal. Just eat something. Something, anything, I beg of you. Masks are good to bring too. Yeah, if you're going to a really large con, masks could be a good idea. Get them vaccines or get sick before the con so you're immune. Life hack, just get sick and then you'll never be sick. Yeah, there's a lot of con flus still. It's weird how COVID's made everything like, um, it's weird. It's like we didn't used to have people getting sick in the summer, but now it's like happening. It's very strange. But yeah, so my advice for making sure you're eating, have a Cliff Bar and a coffee. And once you have a time in which you're done, don't sign up for night shifts. Yeah. For real though, getting COVID at Offkai has helped me not get COVID at other cons. That's true. I feel like it does build up your immunity. Not that you should actually try to get COVID. Does Twitch bonk for saying COVID? I actually don't know. Probably not, right? That's just a YouTube thing, right? Oh, sorry, I didn't see this question earlier. What's it like staffing a con? I guess this is kind of related to already what I'm talking about. Like I said, staffing a con can vary really wildly. It can be also really rewarding. Like I said, it's a good way to make friends, and it kind of gives you a sense of purpose. Like if you get really involved for a con, and maybe you don't feel much purpose in your job, a convention can help you feel that purpose if you feel very tied to it. And then when you're actually working at the con, it can sometimes be really rewarding. It can be really stressful, but usually it feels rewarding, and sometimes, you know, you can meet people. Certain positions, it's like you get some pretty crazy opportunities sometimes, which is cool. Oh no, that's all really for that. 7:45. Let's see. I don't know if I have anything else in regards to those questions. Oh, I guess I didn't touch on like enjoying a con. Actually, no. If you want to enjoy a con while staffing, well, first of all, good luck. But second of all, like I said, have set shift times and don't disobey them. And try to schedule your shifts around the stuff you want to do. You're gonna have to like pick and choose. You might not get to do everything. Also, don't staff a con just because you're trying to get a free badge. That's not... Just volunteer then. And even then, honestly, like, unless it's a really big con or something that's sold out or whatever, it's usually... Unless you're actually doing it because you care about what you're doing, staffing or volunteering for a con for a free badge doesn't make a whole lot of sense. That is just my opinion, but, you know, just saying. Staffing a con is so much hours, and it's definitely not gonna be... It's definitely not gonna be, like, the amount of value of what the ticket is. You did that with panels, and man, they just screw you on times. Yeah. Staffing cons. Gosh. I feel like I could have added more slides, but I was kind of running out of time. I was working really slowly on this. Does anyone have any more questions I can answer for you? It was very detailed, yeah. Thank you, I try. I didn't want it to be like a really short stream. I maybe could upload this as like a video. Might be cool. For a handy reference. But yeah, you know, thank you everyone for joining me today. I really appreciate you listening and watching and commenting and being here, and I hope to stream more. I need to figure out what to do. next stream would probably be next week, because I will be at TwitchCon tomorrow. Well, not TwitchCon, but that was loud. Sorry. I'll be at TwitchCon this weekend. So next stream probably won't be later till later next week, and then I hope to get back to more regular schedule. But I do have some cons coming up, so it probably won't be weekends. Con food tier list starting with hot dog carts. Oh no! Con tier list, that's gonna be a fire. I like how there was the California version of the hot dog carts and then the New York version of the hot dog carts. There's something I noticed when I went to ANYC. Oh, I also really wanted to talk I went on like a journey. That sounds so dramatic, but I went on like a fun little trip by myself. Back in late August. I wanted to talk about that a little bit. But I also do like the tier list stream idea. That is fun. Don't go to any Midwest cons unless it's ASEN or C2E3. I was not planning to go to any Midwest cons. But I wouldn't say I'm opposed to it. Illinois cons. But yeah. Also, I will eventually have the emotes. They will be coming. Also, I made a lot of good progress on my rough sheet. I'm like halfway done coloring it, so I hope to get that out soon. But that is all the news from me, I think, for now. Also try to post more on Twitter. But yeah, guess that's all for now. Once again, thank you, everyone. Let's see, I guess I should see if is there anyone to raid right now? Let's see, raid channel. Oh, I don't know. No one's... Oh no. Oh, Big Ham. Okay. The next task is to raid Big Ham. If you don't know Big Ham, she's really cool and she's a talented artist. So yeah, we're gonna raid Big Ham. Let's see. Okay. Thank you everyone again. Otsu Tangy. Okay. We're getting ready. Okay. And now we're starting. Okay. Goodbye.